Dr. Satyajit, would you introduce the next speaker?
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Dr. Namrata Adulkar, another very promising ophthalmologist from Mumbai. She'll be making, she's a consultant ophthalmologist, oculoplastic orbital surgeon and facial aesthetics from Sir H.N. Reliance Foundation Hospital, Mumbai. And she is also a consultant at Dr. L.H. Hiranandani Hospital, Mumbai. A very warm welcome to this ARC session, Dr. Namrata Adulkar, please.
Good evening, everyone. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. Am I audible here?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
So today I'm going to share one of my cases that I recently happened to manage. This was a patient of invasive sinoorbital mucormycosis in a patient who had recently recovered from SARS-CoV-19 infection. I have no financial disclosures here. This was a 47-year-old healthy gentleman previously who presented with left-sided proptosis, pain, and sudden loss of vision of 2 days duration. He gave history of SARS-CoV-19 pneumonia, for which he was hospitalized and discharged just 2 days prior to onset of ocular complaints. Details of his previous treatment of COVID included he had a rather stormy course and was hospitalized for nearly more than 2 weeks. Received remdesivir, meropenem, IVMT for 5 days, followed by oral dexamethasone. He was also on anticoagulants. He had an interleukin storm and was treated with tocilizumab for 3 days. He also received non-invasive ventilation for 4 days and treated with a lot of steroids. He was discharged. Luckily, he did well, and he was discharged on day 16. And 2 days later, boom, this is how he presented to us. Left eye vision, no PS. He had a fixed dilated pupil with complete ophthalmoplegia, severe proptosis, severe chemosis, and fundus examination revealed a central retinal artery occlusion. There was also blackish crusting at the external nares, which is not seen in this picture. So we were suspecting mucor, and this was the MRI of the patient. So you can see altered intensity of signal in the left orbit, thickened and dilated superior ophthalmic vein. The optic nerve on the left side was also thickened with dilatation of the arachnoid space. And the carotid sinus showed a filling defect on the contrast scan with the lateral convexity suggestive of a cavernous sinus thrombosis on the left side. Patient's labs came out negative for RT-PCR for COVID, considering he had recently recovered from COVID and discharged only when the PCR was negative. He had, as expected, elevated IgG titers, a titer of 7.08, which is considered to be quite high. So normal titers, the titer which is less than 1.4 is considered as negative, and anything more than 1.4 is considered as positive, and more than 5 is high positive. His hemoglobin was normal. The WBC counts were within normal range with a normal lymphocyte percentage. His sugars were deranged with an HbA1c of 13. Mind you, he was previously absolutely healthy, hale and hearty, nothing at all before COVID hit him. His creat was 0.8 and inflammatory markers were elevated, CRP, ESR both. The nasal swab was done and KOH mount tested positive for mucor. So patient was started on injection amphotericin B, the conventional one, along with vancomycin, and continued on his anticoagulants. Insulin along with OHAs were used to control his sugars. Along with that, he received supportive treatment in the form of pain meds, liver supplements, antacids, and so on and so forth. He was planned for surgical debridement of the sinuses and the orbit. We went ahead and did a left orbital exenteration along with pan-sinus debridement with a partial maxillectomy. I'm sorry, I don't have the endoscopic pictures, but this is what I found after exenterating the socket. So you see extensive rarification and necrosis of the bone. The lamina papracia, which was missing on the scans, was also seen missing in the patient with dead necrotic bone at places. So this was the infraorbital nerve, which was thickened almost 3 times the normal size and looked dirty gray, which is unhealthy, along with areas of extremely thinned out bone. So this confirmed that it was a very aggressive kind of disease, and the idea to exenterate was bang on. Histopathology confirmed mucor, the typical findings of occlusive vasculitis with extensive granulation. pass staining showed aseptate broad hyphae, again confirming mucor. Patient recovered quite well. He did undergo regular sinus cleaning every 2-3 days, along with his glycemic control, which also improved. And he was discharged after 3 weeks of treatment with amphotericin and was continued on oral posaconazole. So this was a patient 3 weeks later after on discharge, and he was quite happy and well. So coming to COVID-19, as we all know, it causes a range of disease patterns ranging from mild to life-threatening pneumonia. And now we also know that it is associated with wide range of bacterial and fungal co-infections. Now, why does it have so much why is it considered high risk for fungal co-infections? One, because COVID has propensity to cause extensive pulmonary disease and subsequent alveolar interstitial pathology, which causes a generalized state of hypoxia at tissue level, which, as we know, is a breeding ground for fungal infections. It causes immune dysregulation, in which it causes reduction in the numbers of CD4 plus and CD8 plus T lymphocytes, which may alter the innate immunity, which is again the forerunner of immunity against fungal infections. So these are two reasons why, hypothesized reasons why fungal co-infections are common in patients with COVID. I found in literature 2 similar case reports of patients who presented with COVID and rhinoorbital mucormycosis. However, both the patients, one patient reported by Mehta and all, was a 60-year-old gentleman with long-standing diabetes who succumbed on day 6 of medical management. Another patient, a young patient who presented with left-sided mucormycosis and altered sensorium, was found to be in diabetic ketoacidosis along with COVID-19 infection. And again, patient succumbed on a week after the infection. So to conclude, COVID-19 is associated with significant incidence of secondary infections, both bacterial and fungal, probably due to immune dysregulation, widespread use of steroids, monoclonal antibodies, broad spectrum antibiotics may lead to development or exacerbation of pre-existing fungal diseases. So my one pearl here would be an early diagnosis. It's important to be fungal minded, as they call it. My ENT colleagues keep telling me that in these patients, we need to be fungal minded. We need to think fungal. So diagnose it early and aggressively manage them with debridement surgically to debulk the disease, so as the amphotericin B is reaching the tissues that it actually needs to. Thank you.
Thank you. That was an amazing presentation, Doctor. I think a lot of learning for people, because it's a disease which is still evolving. Would there be any time when you will not be as aggressive to exenterate, when you would hold back? That's one question. And the second question is, what are the extra precautions you took in this COVID patient?
So all the precautions, so COVID-wise, he was a safe patient because he had high levels of anti-IgG COVID titers. So he was a safe patient COVID-wise. Even after that, we did follow all precautions that all patients who are undergoing GA in COVID times are to be followed. Secondly, if the patient presents with an advanced disease, aggressive, rapidly progressing condition, like on presentation, he was no PL, with a disease which was already in the cavernous sinus, apex, which is already showing low attenuation and a fixed dilated pupil with the CRAO, I think these are indications that it is safe to exenterate these patients to prevent the further spread of the infection to the CNS. Because mortality in these patients, if not intervened early, is really high. And if you intervene and exenterate these patients early, we can reduce the mortality by almost 30%.
Namrata, can you just quickly tell me where the involvement of in your stand was, because my internet connection is unstable. See, a lot of these swab tests, a lot of discussion about this is going on in our oculoplasty group. Usha and everyone will agree whether to exenterate or not, because we are definitely seeing a surge of these cases. I think the swab being taken by science graduates and these technicians who are not even trained is a very big risk factor. We have had doctors who have had fungus sitting in the ethmoid sinus. I think they perforate near the cribriform plate. They go really posterior, they have to get. So that's a very important point when you're doing the RT-PCR. I don't know whether this photo is clear, but just go on to that RT-PCR test and see the images there. How posterior one has to go. I think this is a food for thought, because suddenly when we see a surge of fungus, but I think that this has a cause also. It's not just the steroids and that alone which is causing the problem, but I think the swab test there you have to be really very careful.
Right, ma'am. Point taken.
Wonderful, Namrata. I think it's a first case which has survived as of now. So I think it's time for you to report it immediately.
Because I'm now facing two, what to do. One luckily we're thought to have a nasopharyngeal carcinoma, and with all those lung seedings, COVID, the lungs showed all the COVID features. Luckily, it turned out to be fungus only. The other doctor, I think, needs exenteration, and I'm not willing to exenterate. I'm really not willing to exenterate.
Thank you very much.